Third floor.
We on?
Yep.
Okay, welcome everyone to our Tuesday, December 10th, 2019, 6:30 PM, regular scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting. The first thing we do is, usually is to look for public input that's something that's not on the agenda. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to something that's not on the agenda?
Apparently
I
not.
didn't think so. So we're going to take, at the request of Trudy Reed, something out of order, which is the, what?
So the,
375th,
Yep.
375th anniversary celebration commemoration booklet. Oh, I got that out. Come on up.
oh, great.
And Diane?
Now you're really testing the system.
Dynamic duo.
I gotta see if I can find it. Ah, did. Cool.
I was going to go on the other side. Good evening. Diane and I just wanted to come and present the commemorative booklet that we finally put together on the 375th. It's been several months in the making. It's first revealing. You guys get the first copy.
So cool.
Fantastic.
Has to be some
But
perks, right?
it's a year in review.
First edition. Wow.
First edition, year in review from start to end.
Uh-oh.
Hope that everybody shows up to Diane's office in the next few days and gets their copy right off the press, hot off the press, and relive the 375th year like we have done for the last 6 months in putting the book
Putting it
together.
together.
Just a quick thank you to Jackie for her help on this, as well as her many interns, and I'm sure that's had their part on this as well. And for Diane to be patient with me as we went through this and made all the final edits and put it together. So
There's Win Dodge again. My God, he's everywhere, isn't he?
This
We
is
had-
such a great thing to remember this.
yeah. Well, we had some extra money left over, and this is what we wanted to do. We printed up 375 copies.
Oh.
So it's first come, first serve. We plan to make sure that the committee members get them, the church, library, things like that. But just anybody come on in and get them from Diane's office.
Lots of
really
great photos.
nice.
Thank
you so much.
Yeah, a lot of
It was a
photos.
wonderful year.
Yeah.
Great events.
We tried to,
Include everything.
So we won't ask you to do it for another 375 years.
no.
but Thank you.
But I think what we've decided is there's going to be once all the bills have been paid, there's going to be a little money left over, and I think we've decided to put it into a CD for the 400th.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
there'll be
Have a little
some-
seed money
what's that?
when they start.
There'll be some seed money to start with. So,
Fantastic.
yeah, so I think that was the best decision that we had heard on the extra money, so.
Great.
Yeah, anything you want to say?
No.
Oh, thank you guys so
Thank you
much.
very much, and congratulations on an outstanding job.
Yep.
It was a very special event. It was extremely well attended.
Mm-hmm.
The parade lasted a long, long time. I saw that.
Yeah, it was a great
And,
parade. Great parade. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Announcements.
It's up on
So-
the board too. Just
Reach Across America. So please join the Veterans Committee at the Main Street Cemetery on this Saturday, December 14th at noon, and laying wreaths on 500 of our veterans' graves simultaneously with participants at Arlington National Cemetery and community across the nation. A brief reception will be held in the Wenham Fire Department after the ceremony. Email the Veterans Committee at veterans@wenhammass.gov with any questions. So last year, we only were able to afford about 150, but we had a fundraising campaign led by the Veterans Committee, of which I'm a member. Win Dodge did a great job, along with Bill Wilson and other people, and we managed to collect enough money to get 500 wreaths. Actually, it's 490. We're going to lay 498, two spares, and that all the way from the veterans of the French and Indian Wars. I'm sure nobody remembers that. If you are, you're
No.
lying. And that all the way to the present wars, and that it's a great ceremony and to honor veterans, and that I hope everyone. Many people can come. I understand the weather forecast is not ideal, but we did it last year. Worked very well. Unfortunately, it was fortunately last year it was 65 to 68 degrees with no rain, sunny
Yeah.
weather. This is mid-December, so am I getting a signal back there for some reason?
I
Want to bring something up?
haven't been asked to.
Can I just add something to that ceremony?
Yep.
It's the part of the Reach Across America, and their website, they have a coloring and informative, what is this called?
Vanna, go ahead.
I know. Project for kids to understand what a veteran's wreath is.
Okay.
And so it's on our website and it's on Facebook, that we'll collect a lot of them and then give them to the Veterans Committee, and they can share them with local veterans and stuff like that.
that's
So
fun.
that's just the extra piece that we found, that Nikki found today.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Dean Peterson is the chairman of the committee, and Bill Wilson has done a phenomenal job putting hours and hours and hours again about identifying all of the graves, putting together the ceremony, and all of the participants, along with Gary Cheeseman, who also was his sidekick in helping with this. So that look forward to as many people who can come. It's at noontime again at the Main Street Cemetery. The whole procedure won't be more than, call it 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Hopefully it won't be raining at that time, but if it is, bring your umbrella. Town office holiday hours. Town office will be closed in observations of Christmas and New Year's on December 24th, Town Hall. COA, Council on Aging, is closing at noon, and the library is closing at 1 p.m. that day, Tuesday. Wednesday, December 25th, Town Hall, Council on Aging, library is closed, no surprise. Tuesday, December 31st, New Year's Eve, Town Hall, Council on Aging closing at noon, library is closing at 5 p.m. And lastly, on Wednesday, January 1st, New Year's Day, Town Hall, Council on Aging, library closed. These are presumably closures that everyone would have anticipated. Next. Holiday tree recycling through January 11th. Residents will again be able to recycle. What does that mean by recycling? What do they do with the trees when
They
recycle?
chip them.
They chip them. What do they do with the chips?
Use as compost for next
Compost.
spring's
Oh, I can just read
growing
on and
season.
it'll explain it to me. Okay. Recycle the holiday trees at Pingree Park. We've done in previous years. The town does not offer curbside tree collection, even though some people and my neighbors put them up. So please bring trees free of lights and ornaments by January 11th to the Pingree Park parking lot. Thanks to Iron Tree Services and Brick Ends Farm, trees will be chipped and used as compost. There we go, answering my question, as compost for next spring's growing season. I didn't know Christmas trees were good compost. Anyway, do not bring wreaths, plants, garland, baskets, or brush, as these items may cause damage to the equipment. Okay. Next.
It's up there.
Community Preservation Act applications. Getting late. Wenham Community Preservation Committee is accepting applications for CPA funding for the 2020 annual town meeting through Monday, January 6th, by 4 p.m. in the permitting office here at Town Hall. Application materials may be found at the CPC page of the town's website or a hard copy in Town Hall. Questions may be directed to Jackie Bresnahan at Wenham, J. Bresnahan at wenhammass.gov, or her telephone number is 978-468-5520, extension 4. You know how many applications we've already had, Elliot? I know you're not in the committee anymore, but you're already plugged into everything in town, so. No, you don't. Huh?
I don't think there are any.
Wow. This is your chance. Okay. Next, we'll go to reports.
I'm going to defer mine to Catherine. I have nothing new from last meeting. Happy to put something up later at some point.
So this is more in the way of a late-breaking announcement rather than a report, but someone from the school committee dropped off this information, and we agreed to share it with the community. And it has to do with the fact that they are beginning a superintendent search. They have an interim superintendent and are going to begin doing a search for a permanent superintendent. So it says the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee is seeking input from our faculty, staff, parents, and community at large as we begin the process of selecting our next superintendent. A search consultant from the Massachusetts Association of School Committees will be conducting focus groups to gather this input. An online survey is also available. The feedback from the focus groups and online survey will inform the school committee as it considers the selection criteria and qualifications for the next superintendent. Voluntary focus groups will be held at each school for staff members who would like to attend, and they have set up 4 other focus groups aimed at elementary parents, middle school parents, etc. And the dates are elementary school parents, and I should say, I believe this will be on our website and most likely on the school's website as well. Elementary school parents, Thursday, December 12th, 7 to 8 p.m. at the Winthrop School Library. Elementary school staff members, Tuesday, December 17th, 3:15 to 4:15 at the Winthrop School Library. High school parents, Tuesday, December 17th, 7 to 8 at the high school library. Middle school parents, Wednesday, December 18th, 7 to 8 at the middle school multipurpose room. Middle and high school staff members, Thursday, December 19th, 3:15 to 4:15 at the high school library. And the community at large, which is probably most of the people listening tonight, Thursday, December 19th, from 7 to 8 p.m. at the high school library. If you are unable to attend a focus group but would like to provide input, an online survey is available. And I think it probably makes sense for people to go online because it's surveymonkey.com/r/some group of numbers. So I think if you'd like to do it online, I would suggest going on the website. We look forward, this is again from the school committee, we look forward to your participation as we select Hamilton Wenham's next superintendent. So that's the news from the school district.
I think it's still up, Catherine.
Okay.
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve all items in the consent agenda, including the one item, minutes for the open session for July 9th, 2019.
Second?
Did you have any comments or changes, Jack?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All righty. It took a while for those to get approved. Anyway. Okay.
Yeah, it's something.
I think
something,
that
something
I'm going
weird
to jump
about
around a little bit.
that. Oh, no.
We have a whole cadre of people to my right here for the fire chief. Let's do that next. When that, as soon as I can scroll through this thing and go back. New business approval of the fire chief, Stephen B. Kavanaugh. What's the B stand for, by the way, Bob?
Brian.
Brian. Contract and appointment.
So, Mr. Chairman, as you're aware of last executive session meeting, the board came to tentative terms with Chief Kavanaugh on a contract for starting January 1st, 2020 to go through December 31st, 2020. So you also will make the official appointment as fire chief for Chief Kavanaugh. So Chief Kavanaugh is here today, and we do have a contract if it's amenable to both parties. Chief has met with me. He was certainly amenable, so
Okay,
Ready to
I'll make the
move.
motion. Well, they go into Google Docs, by the way. Move that the Board of Selectmen agree to the terms and conditions, it should be, as set forth in the contract for Fire Chief Stephen Kavanaugh. They left the B out there. Effective January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. And appoint Stephen Kavanaugh as a Wenham Fire Chief effective January 1st, 2020. Repeating it, December 31, 2020.
Second.
Further discussion?
No, I think everything.
All in
was
favor?
fine
Aye,
with me.
congratulations.
we got to just sign the contract.
Do we get, like,
Wanna
each
come
get
up and take a
separate
picture or
pens
something
or
like that?
anything, you know, like they do,
No.
like the president does?
Just giving your wife a chance to, she said no, she declined. Although, I think she's reconsidering right now. It's a pen, oh, yeah, it is, okay.
Chief, hold on, I just want to grab a picture.
You gotta wait till he turns around, there's no sense photographing his
Can you get
back.
him? Sign slowly. I guess you have to come to this
You
side.
can come up here and
But you'd like to have a
keep on
picture
signing,
with him
Steve, so
probably, right?
looks like you like it.
You don't want me in.
Just fake it if
We'd like
just
to
fake it
have
if
you in
you're not
picture.
actually signing it.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did.
well, I think. You never know where it'll show up, but if it's on your phone.
If you just,
So we have to sign it.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Congratulations. There'll be more congratulations after we actually sign it, right? So you see that we're doing it. Is it December 10th?
Wait, just paid $10 for his glasses. too.
Is it December 10th? Yeah. December 10th, 2019. Oops, I think that's it.
Want me to get in there?
That's the P.
I just want to turn around, so I don't want that.
Yeah, really.
I think we should fill in this first line.
Smile, would you? Can you all hold it?
Sure, sure.
All right, now everyone, get up here. Seriously, get up here.
The whole department, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Give this back to our administrator. The glasses just broke, by the way.
I don't want to get taken, Richie.
I know. No, there was none of these are expensive.
Yeah, that's why you're right.
These are $10.
I was waiting. I am.
Everybody's marked.
We're going to set this in time, the record time.
Thank you.
Is,
I don't see that.
mine didn't either, that's why I wondered.
Your literature from our attorney, his attorney.
Yeah, there's a lit. I think I read a letter.
Want us to leave?
No, it's up, yeah, you can,
Yeah,
you
you're
guys wanna
welcome
stay.
to. You're certainly welcome
love
to
the
stay,
company.
but
Thank you.
no requirements.
No, we're not going to take it badly if you leave.
So are we going
back to old
backwards?
business? Back to old business?
Oh, yeah, he's here now. Okay, so that's,
I just wanted, no,
Yeah.
I think there is a letter.
all right, let's see.
You can tee it up to me if you want.
Yeah, it's
I
Jack's.
got to go back and find it now.
Hey, you're the one who went out of order, Jack. That's the,
Well,
that's
true.
the, that's
Jack,
the
it's up
problem.
there too if you want to.
All right. Do we- Annual liquor license renewals, 97 Market,
Want me to tee it up for you?
please.
Sure. So, Mr. Chairman, just as from last meeting, 97 Market is in compliance with all of our requirements. At the last meeting, some new information came to the board's attention that the property had turned hand. There was some concern about whether or not the lease was a long-term and when the lease ended. So Albert got us a letter from his landlord, which I have a snippet up here on the screen, which is to, basically says the current lease agreement for the tenant, Albert Abdel Malik. Did I say that right, Albert? Okay. DBA Richdale Convenience Store is in effect beginning April 1st, 2019 for 5 years, expiring March 31st, 2024, with 2 5-year extension options that, if elected by the tenant, would extend the current lease to March 31st, 2034.
I don't have any further questions. You delivered just what we asked for. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Albert.
So
Make some motions here.
I got it up there.
it's up on the screen if you want.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the annual renewal, this is easier than looking at the computer.
It is.
Of the retail license, shouldn't that say liquor license? Retail license for the sale of sale of wine and malt alcoholic beverages for calendar year 2020 for 97 Market, Inc., 143 Topsville Road, Wenham, Mass. Albert, you can pronounce your last name for me.
Abdul Malak.
Abdimlak.
I'm not going to
I might get that
screw
right.
that up. Manager, further discussion?
No?
All in favor? Aye, congratulations. Sorry we delayed you
Thank
by a
you.
week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would have seconded that. I think I did.
I don't think I asked you, but thank you.
Okay. So we're on
E.
E. Okay, so this is, I'm going to quickly turn this over to Anthony, but I will introduce it. This is a new business item. It has to do with approval of a leave of absence for police officer Mia Cefalo. So, Cefalo?
Cephalo.
Cefalo. It's that Italian in me. I never know what they're doing. So we have the captain here and...
The captain, yeah, so Captain DiNapoli is here to speak on this leave of absence that recently came to light. I'll let him explain it further. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. So, Officer Safalo put in pursuant to Article 33 of the collective bargaining agreement through the police union for a leave of absence. As you folks know, she was selected by the Massachusetts State Police with her last official day at Wenham PD being the 31st of this month. However, this is basically for benefits because there are no benefits through state police while she's in the State Police Academy. And so that's why she put this request in. And we've never, under Chief Perkins's tenure, he's never had a formal request brought to his attention since this was put in the union bylaws. So this is the first time he's been presented with a formal request as such.
Can I just add to Captain DiNapoli, the expense of the benefits is being completely paid for by Officer Cephalo. There's no expense to the town.
That's what police chief.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah,
I was kind of surprised.
so she's paying the whole amount.
Yeah.
So this allows her to move to her new position while being on a leave of absence here, which she wouldn't get paid for her leave here, and she'll take care of her own benefits.
Correct.
But at the end of that 3 months, March 31st, 2020, she would be able to ask to come back and would be able to come back to her present position?
Yeah, if it were to ever come to that, she's leaving in very good standing. She's been an employee of the town for about 5 years, and we've had no problems. She's done well since she's been here. She's a good employee. So, if it were to come to that scenario, then she would be allowed accordingly.
Okay, great. Well, we wish her luck.
Any further discussion?
Nope. Shall I make a
Okay.
motion?
Please.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve a leave of absence in accordance with Article 33 in the collective bargaining agreement with the Police Benevolent Association of Wenham, MCOP Local 382, for Police Officer Mia Cefalo, effective December 31, 2019 through March 31, 2020. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? None?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good.
Thank you very much for
Thank you,
coming in.
Captain.
Ian, we're sorry to
Got
leave
you
you.
out of a little bit training. Anytime.
On the one hand, I hope things work out, on the other hand, I hope they don't work out.
I know, right? I know. It's a hard one.
A hard one. Okay, is this mine or yours?
Let's see.
We
Oh,
tee
I
it
think
up tonight.
that's, I can't read it. I think it's yours.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we have a vacancy on the Housing Authority with the passing of Arthur Burt, who's been on the Housing Authority for many, many years, and was recently a member of the CPC board, so long-serving member of both. How long was he a member of the CPC, would you guess?
5 years, past 5 years.
Yeah. And so that creates a vacancy in the Housing Board, and the process for filling a vacancy on boards that have elected members, which this is one, is that that board meets the remaining members of the board. I think there's 4 remaining members, 5 there's 5 slots, and there's 4 remaining members, and they would meet with the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, so there's 2 Mass General laws that we have to be concerned about. There's Chapter 121B, Section 5, which deals with housing authorities, and the part that comes into play for this situation is the part that's underlined, which says, except elected members in towns whose terms shall be filled in accordance with the provisions of Section 11 of Chapter 41. So the next law is Chapter 41, Section 11. And it says, if there is a vacancy in a board consisting of 2 or more members, except a board whose members have been elected by proportional representation under Chapter 54, A, the remaining members shall give written notice thereof within 1 month of said vacancy to the selectmen, with whom the remaining member or members of such board shall, after 1 week's notice, fill such vacancy by roll call vote. So, oops,
So the,
trying to
go back.
Oh, right here, sorry. So there's 3 things. We have received notification from the chairman for the Housing Authority of the vacancy. So at the next meeting, you'll accept that and then the chairman will issue a letter back to the Housing Authority, inviting them to a meeting in beginning of February to jointly fill that position.
Well, that presumes we have an applicant.
We have one applicant so far. I've been told, I haven't seen it yet, but it's coming in. But we will advertise it in a public notice, and we will also advertise it on the town's website.
Yep, good.
So, I had a question. Joint appointment, oh, it says, okay, so we've been notified of the vacancy, and then it says that we are supposed to notify the remaining members of the Wenham Housing Authority that they shall convene a joint meeting, meaning they and we together, right?
Together, yes.
To fill a vacancy through the April 20th election. It sounds like they invite they put out the letter of interest notice, is that right?
No, so we'll issue a letter on behalf, Jack will do it as chairman, to them, inviting them to the meeting. We will do the advertising for the public notice, and we will advertise on the website. Everything goes through the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
They're invited, the remaining members of the Housing Authority, with the Board of Selectmen to make the joint appointment, which will last until the next election, and that election would fill the remaining vacancy of Mr. Bird's seat.
Okay. So we don't have a date yet for the joint meeting, but we also don't have it advertised. So we have to
Right,
advertise
so-
letters of
so-
interest, find some people, have a joint meeting.
Right, so January 7th, we'll start that process, give it a month for people to be able to submit. They have to be registered voters of the community, too.
Right.
So that'll give us a month to wait to get some applicants for maybe board members to talk to folks, and then we can have the formal meeting, the first meeting in February.
Okay.
So I noticed we have a formal letter from Mr. Blanchard notifying us of this process.
He did, it was after the packet was completed, so that's why in the next meeting we'll,
Well, it's in here, so. There's a letter addressed to me.
oh, that's the draft, that's the version that,
Yeah.
that's a blank one. That's
Somebody
how
wrote
the
it for
process
him.
would go. So I actually wrote it for him.
Yeah.
So I did all the letters for him and the letter
No
for
one signed it
you.
either, okay,
So that's the draft, that's how the process will,
yeah.
yeah, so,
So he's got to sign it, send it in to us.
which he did, and then next meeting we'll reciprocate.
All righty.
Okay.
So that's,
We understand what the,
so that was I don't know if there's any questions with that procedure, or, I did run it by council too, I'm waiting to, I just went through this in Littleton before I left when I was the interim town administrator, so I was very familiar filling a vacancy of the Housing Authority, so I'm 99% sure that this is right. I was just asking Lauren to confirm, and I haven't heard back from her yet, but I will.
We've done this two or three times in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
yeah, that's,
And this is not new to us.
right.
no. I
One
don't-
thing I've learned so far this evening is I'm not going to jump around anymore. Because,
Right, it's a lot
Yeah.
harder.
I go back and
With the
forth.
PowerPoint, it's
Yeah.
difficult too, yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
but you did,
I thought it would be easy to, no, it's not even scroll. Anyway, that's my problem. Okay.
okay.
Revenue options.
All right. So in your packet, you had the full presentation, but that was quite long, and what I did is I took snippets of that presentation and I put it into this presentation. So I'll gladly send you this version as well, so you'll have it, but it's basically the same thing that you have in your packet.
Okay.
So what we learned from Saturday is two things. We have a structural deficit of approximately $1.1 million, which I think that is not uncommon. I think it happens every year that there's a structural deficit identified. And then there's capital improvement, potential projects for $958,000, which we would need to determine the funding source for those projects if they made it through the process. So how do we deal with that structural deficit? So there's reduced expenses, increased fees, existing fees, or new revenues. Those are the three options. On the capital improvement plan, we really have to determine, there's a lot of work to do there and determine the funding source for projects and see what's going to get approved. So for the rest of this, we're just going to worry about the operating budget. So reduce expenses, we're going to continue to review departmental requests and see where we can eliminate or trim back some of the requests. As far as increasing existing fees, as as previously mentioned, that we were going to look at, I think Diane's already started looking at town clerk fees. Jackie has inspectional service fees that we were going to discuss tonight, but with her grandmother's passing, we pushed that off to the next meeting. Want to talk about tonight really briefly about Pleasant Pond. And as far as new revenues, there's two ideas. There's the adopt the local meals room occupancy law that would be required town meeting. And then the other new revenue would be a trash refuse fee. So town clerk fees, these are current fees. This is the new schedule. There's nothing really too drastic here for proposed changes. Like I said earlier, inspectional services fees, Jackie will be here at the next meeting to present the fee increases, but basically, as she said, they were last updated in 2016. Some of these proposed increases are based on trends in construction, some based on the need for more staff time to cover the cost of inspecting this particular type of work, and she'll get into detail on that next week, or next meeting, I should say. So just to talk about Pleasant Pond this past season, so what we had for expenses at the pond was $24,000. What we took in for...
Previous slide.
Sure.
I thought it was 20, so, okay, 24,032.
Yeah, salary was the lifeguards up here,
Yep.
and then that's other miscellaneous expenses. So here's how the passes are sold. 52% are sold to Wenhamites, and 48% are sold to Hamiltonians, for a total revenue of $3,352, which means right now Hamilton and Wenham general funds are subsidizing this by $20,677. Wenham's share is obviously 52% of that, which comes to $10,752. So,
Anthony, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Just relative to the percentage, I've forgotten the IMA. Does the subsidy, or does the allocation change every year by the percentage, or is it like a average of a couple?
Three-year average.
Three-year average.
Three average.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, thank you. I just was wondering.
So obviously, there's a way that if we want to cover the expenses, every little bit's going to help.
Yep.
Water department,
Why don't you go back and...
Sure.
all right, what are we currently charging for stickers? And how much will they go up?
20, well, it's a good question. So I think they're charging $20 now, so we'd have to really,
25?
20 is it 25?
For the
Okay.
first car.
$10 for a second car.
A second vehicle in the family. So we'd have to determine that, Jack, on,
That's for a season, right?
Yes.
yes.
That's pretty cheap.
Yeah, so we'd have to figure out, to cover our cost, what that would be.
Yep.
But that's just one way.
A few bucks.
Yeah, it would be an increase, no doubt.
Well, a few bucks.
Yeah,
Well, so we'll obviously have more conversations
Right.
about this, and I would certainly, my thoughts are that we shouldn't be subsidizing this to that extent, certainly. But the flip side of that is I don't, at this point, know enough to say, but I don't think we should do away with Pleasant Pond stickers either. So I look forward to talking a little bit more about
there's-
this and figuring a way, some combination of things that,
sure, there's always the swim at your own risks and put signs up, but, there comes
have
a,
a past liability
Right.
there that's a little,
there's a lot of options how you can
Right,
deal with this,
right.
either increase fees or reduce some kind of expenses.
Right.
Reduce the deficit, that,
Yeah.
I don't know if we need to go all the way, or can go all the way, should go all the way, but okay.
I mean, ideally, we'd increase the number, I mean, the happy, everybody's happy way to do it would be to increase the number of stickers that we sell. But we can't guarantee that. That's not very many stickers altogether.
Right, and everything that we're talking about is just this initial
Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah,
We need to
sure.
talk about it more deeply.
Yeah.
The board has to decide what
Yeah, just want to have some
maybe
understanding.
FinCom weigh in on it, but
Yep,
it's just for
okay.
some initial discussions as a result of Saturday.
Okay.
So as I mentioned on Saturday, the water department, we're looking to fully recover the indirect costs that are currently being subsidized by the general fund. So right now, the water department's paying for the staff cost and their benefits. The direct staff, so there's 2 people there, but what we're not recovering is the indirect costs. So the work that our finance office is doing with the billing, the receiving, and everything, excuse me, associated with the general operation of the administrative operation of that. So before Patty had left, she put together a spreadsheet, and she believes it was, I believe it was 15% of the finance time as well as some of my time, and that we would be looking to possibly recover $100,000 from the water department to cover the indirect costs, because that's what those costs total.
Hear you.
Okay, got it.
It'd be interesting if you could break out the indirect costs. Some of the indirect costs are clearly should be borne by them, such as billing costs, you know, and that so there are categories of indirect costs, and I'd like to see, I'm sure, so in the water department, what comprises that $100,000?
Right, and Chris is working with, he's going to get the information from Patty and work on that spreadsheet, so when we have further discussions about this, we'll have it all broken down.
Thank you.
And of course,
They do cover some things currently, like they pay for their SoftWrite, their accounting software, they pay for the portion of that, they pay for their postage, they pay for, you know, their own debt and stuff, so there's just some additional ones that we're looking to add in, so it's not, they don't pay for, there's still some things they cover, it's just, we're looking to get like more time for that and stuff.
so I agree with Jack, it would be nice to see that itemized.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and I'm looking to find Patty's spreadsheet she put together and
Right.
continue to work on that.
And-
So I'm still looking to try to find that and
Right. Can always
to
go.
continue on with it.
Okay, and also, this is a lot in the purview of the water commissioners, so I'm assuming that you'd involve them in some of these conversations as well.
We definitely want to have conversations with the water commissioners. They approve the rates. It's the Board of Selectmen and FinCom and ultimately town meeting that approves the budget for them. You know, this isn't an enterprise fund. We treat it like an enterprise fund, but there's still, we certainly all want to work together on this.
Well, I think that's my point.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
mean, we might have ultimate authority or something like that.
Right.
But they're heavily involved, and I'm sure would appreciate.
Absolutely.
Being
And when we have
included
that
in the
spreadsheet, it's
conversations.
something that we'd like to have
Yeah.
that conversation with them to just let them be fully understand what it is we're trying to
Right.
recover.
Right, might get more support that way.
Right.
Okay.
Did you have a question, Jack? Oh, okay. So now, trash process is the big one. So just to summarize, so collection of the trash is by Casella. That's the house-to-house curbside pickup. Recycling is also by Casella. That's the picking up and hauling it to the processing center. Our trash processing is by Wheelabrator, and what Wheelabrator is where they burn our trash. So collection of the trash and recycling is a fixed cost, and the trash and recycling processing is based on the number of tons. So here's a little summary of July 18th to June 19th, the expenses of the collection of trash is the green, recycling is the yellow, and the Wheelabrator costs. So as you can see, that's, the hauling is the large chunk, recycling, and the Wheelabrator. What you'll see in the recycling costs is where, back in FY17, we were actually making a little money on recycling, and it's just completely has gone the other way.
I think our computers have a better description, visually at least anyway, of what those numbers are.
Well, I have some,
I was just going to say that recycling costs are independent of us. I mean, recycling costs have gone up.
recycling costs have
Right.
gone up. It's
Okay.
nothing and I have some charts which will show you tonnage and cost and how that looks over the last couple, 2.5 fiscal years. So in summary, here it is, the breakdown. So again, where I mentioned the recycling processing, see in FY17, it only cost us $874. In FY20, we're projecting that cost to be $42,000. So again, Wheelabrator has gone from, we're projected just shy of 60,000. This year, we're up at 75, and with the increase, we're looking at 77. So our total cost, what we're projecting is about $434,000. I think that number has changed with new information that we got that was presented Saturday, so that may be a little bit elevated, but we'll update this spreadsheet for you. This was done, obviously, before Saturday.
I'd like you to stick with this slide for a second. And that,
Sure.
I can understand why Wheelabrator, whatever, is going up. Less so. We only spent $874 for recycling in fiscal 17. Now we're going to project to spend $46,000.
That's when China was taking our recycling. China no longer is taking our recycling. That's the issue there.
Let's go back to the first column then. So in 17, we spent for regular trash, what's this, trash and recycling? Is the green column a combination of recycling?
That's hauling of trash and recycling.
So that would include also the yellow column?
No,
No, that's the tonnage, that's the processing
It
of
says
that.
recycling in both.
Right,
Okay.
this is tonnage. This
Okay,
is
so,
hauling.
so that's gone up considerably. Now, why would that be? I mean,
Well,
people,
first of all, FY17 is when you had Hilts, yeah.
oh, yeah.
So then you had the significant jump after that to Casella. And then it basically is
Okay.
2 to 3%.
Okay, I got it.
those are
I see it now.
contractual
Right.
year
Contractual
increases.
increases,
Right.
yeah, that they do.
Yeah.
That's what the big jump was there, was the Hilts. Which is, I think, why they went out of business, because they were underselling their own service.
Right.
Although we got $38,000 from the bankruptcy court, right?
That is correct.
Is that netted against this?
No, it's not.
Okay.
No. So the next slide just shows,
It should be, but anyway, who cares?
Hard to see.
the next slide shows our recycling costs from FY17 to FY18. This is just a graph that shows the jump.
So this is Wheelabrator recycling.
No, this is recycling. This is,
But not collection.
Wheelabrator is incinerator burning the trash.
Okay, but this is not pickup of recycling.
This is tonnage.
Processing of recycling.
Yeah, this is
Yeah, okay.
processing.
Okay, it's hard to see.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. It's
just-
it's a lot of information on a...
Yeah, I do that all the time.
So here's the tonnage that we do. This was the cost per ton. These numbers right here for each fiscal year. And the next slide is the tonnage. So the tonnage really is not changed all that much. What is really is just, it's a cost.
Right. So the town, is this saying that the town is recycling about the same amount as it has, but the
Right,
cost
the cost of just,
to process that recycling has gone
Exactly.
up significantly?
exactly.
Okay.
So now when we look at Wheelabrator, which is the incinerator, here's the tonnage. So again, it's kind of saying the same story. We're really not having that much of a change in the tonnage, but what's changing is the cost. So here's our cost. It's just been rising. So if you look right here, in FY20, we're at $66.89 a ton. Their contract next year is $82 a ton. That's 22.59% increase. So this is the percent increase, and that's why that spiked. So they really jumped up their price. And this isn't just Wenham, this is everybody get hit with the same thing.
Why, is that because they're not selling the electricity?
No, Wheelabrator, so what I think one of their problems is when they incinerate the trash, they have the ash. So they have so much space for ash and landfills, and I think that they're starting to be stretched. You know, when stretched, they probably still have enough room for 30 years, but they start that process of us feeling the effect of that.
And do we have a contract with Wheelabrator?
We have a
So
contract.
this year is the first year, or coming up, will be the first year of a new contract?
Next fixture,
So
yes.
that's why that, okay.
We
Yeah.
built that incinerator.
Yeah,
In Saugus?
No, the one in North Andover.
Yeah, I think that the way they told me that this was going to Saugus, but I could be wrong. When we met with Casella, he said that the white trash is going to Saugus, but,
Is it?
As is appropriate.
yeah.
Well, it's a big increase. The bottom line, it's a big increase from one year to the next.
Yeah, and I'm sure if that's the case, that we built it for them, they thank us very much and have
And give us-
given us a 22.6% increase in our costs, so.
And I,
Very controversial about 10 years ago. Remember they had a
Yes.
special town meeting in this?
Yes. more than, yeah.
Yeah, the contract we had, starting in the 80s, expired in '05, at which point we were paying 4 times the state average per ton.
Very contentious at the time, I recall.
So there's no negotiating this contract, I presume?
There's no negotiating. Matter of fact, Wheeler Breda, when they met with Joe Domolowitz and myself, they basically said, here it is. If you don't want it, we have communities that are begging us to take their trash, so, good luck to you. There's only a couple companies out
That's
there,
gonna be my other
so.
question, not a lot of competition or not a lot
No,
of
there really
other
wasn't.
options?
Nope, they're in there right together. They
Yeah,
talking the same dollar amount, so.
okay.
Next.
So if we were looking at doing a trash or refuse fees, there's a couple of different options. There's the flat fee, which could be broken down to, say, and there's 7 different examples. So if we did, say, $25 a quarter, that's $100 a year per, we factored in 1,400 households in Wenham, so that would generate $140,000 to offset that $440,000 bill that we have. And, we can go right down the road, down the line here, and you can see it depends on whatever option you choose, it just increases. So that's the flat fee option. I'll flip if you,
I'm gonna just wait to see
Yeah.
all the options, and then I'm gonna give you my overall.
sure. So option B is pay-as-you-throw, and that's basically you would buy our bags, you would be required to buy our bags and put your trash in our bags, and then we would continue the same pickup that we have now. In a way, I think Hamilton is doing that on that every other day, the odd week, that you can use their bags and they'll still pick up.
Except this is talking about paying for bags every week.
Every week.
Yeah.
This would be the every week option. So,
And is this, just so I understand the
Yep.
chart? If the way we'd pay for pretty much the whole bill would be each household would need to use 3 bags a week?
so this is a moving target,
Yeah,
and really, the preferred method is obviously the guaranteed revenue, so we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is we just don't know what's the average. So what we
Right.
did is, we just broke down if the average household was to do 1 bag of trash, this is what we would generate as far as revenue. What that number is, it's probably, I would guess between 1.5 and 2 might be the average in Wenham.
Are the bags the same size as the bags you could buy at the
Yes.
at the hardware store?
Yes.
The green ones?
Yes,
So I would think, and they go in the black bin?
yes.
Are they the same size as the black bin? 1 trash bag, the same volume as 1 bin?
Nikki, do you know how big those trash bags are? The ones that,
I feel the bags are bigger.
33 by
The
35,
green bags are big.
large bags.
the large,
That's what I thought.
I think so, too.
so the large bags, Nikki said, is 33 by 35. So in my community of Malden, this is what they do, is we have to buy the bags. And I know for myself, I can get 2 trash bags to go into 1 Malden trash bag, so I end up with 1. That's really jamming it in there, but
So 2 of your personal trash will
will fit
fill in
into 1. But that's, every house is different. It depends on what you're generating for trash. Obviously, a family of 5 or 6 is going to generate a lot more trash than, a single person, or maybe even a senior.
We filled up that black
We
bin.
did too. Then we recycle and compost and everything.
Jay, you're paying a lot for water, and you're generating a lot of trash, huh?
I'm getting screwed.
You're getting your money's worth, almost.
Getting my money's
Yeah.
Then I have to throw away the electronics bag, but I go bring it down.
You
Yeah.
pay for that too, yeah.
So this chart basically is, it's a moving target. This obviously is difficult to budget, but again, that's for something down the road. If you want to have further discussions about these, could be some of the,
Very interesting information.
yeah. Other revenue options which would require town meeting vote is that, and I think that we talked about this at the last selectmen's meeting, is the local adoption of the meals room occupancy tax. That's adding the 0.75% for meals and the 6% on room occupancy tax. And because of the short-term rentals that the governor signed into effect in July 2019, you do have places here in Wenham that,
Airbnbs, you mean?
yes,
Do you have any legal Airbnbs in Wenham?
They don't have to be legal. I mean, there's no, we don't, it didn't pass town meeting. We won it last year, we tried to restrict it and it failed. Okay.
so the law requires them to register.
Yeah.
So they're supposed to be registered with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Revenue.
Right.
If town meeting adopted this, the very next day, we fill out the paperwork, we send it to DOR, they do their matching, and then 30 days later, we start receiving checks. We're not talking a lot of money. In the meals tax, we're talking $15,000 a year is the last estimate I have. DOR hasn't really updated in the past 9 months, so that's kind of the best guess, so 15,000 or so. Room occupancy, there's nothing out there for us, so that's, we have no idea what that could generate, but looking at the Airbnbs out there and what they're charging,
Assuming that they
Assuming that
actually
they're
register.
yeah.
and all that. That they register. I mean, this adoption the state would require a B&B to register.
they're required anyways to register.
And I don't think we have any registered in Wenham, but I could be wrong.
We don't have any lodging licenses that were
Right.
issued, but it's still, they're required to register with the State Department of Revenue for room occupancy tax.
Okay.
The state wants their share.
Right,
So what this is let's get our local share.
right. Okay.
And then, obviously, the final option for other revenue options would be an operational override.
Right.
So that's really just an initial high-level presentation on revenues. I'm, happy to drill down on anything in the future, and I'm sure we can have some discussions going forward. Obviously, we have a lot of work still to do for the FY21 budget, so just to give the board, and we pass this information on to FinCom, just to let them know the options that could be available to the town.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any comments? I'll wait. I mean, I am assuming this is going to come
I
out
think that the
later.
trash is gonna, I think it'd be helpful to find a forum to get some feedback on the trash options. And that, I don't know about a public meeting or something like that, but if we, I wouldn't mind getting this out publicly, not so much this stuff right here, the trash out there, and find out what people's reaction would be. Particularly since Hamilton just went through their, I did tune in, I don't usually tune into the Hamilton Board of Selectmen, but they have quite a bit of feedback,
They have quite a bit of feedback.
and still are getting some, and that most of it was unfavorable, as I recall. And this is
Yeah.
just a small sample of people who won't get up the podium in Hamilton town.
Yeah, and the reason why we have to bring up the trash fees, it's our, other than employee benefits, it's our single largest collective bill that we have.
And
And a lot of communities, I'm sorry, not to interrupt you, but a lot of communities have started the process years ago of collecting and recovering some of their costs, because these are costs that are growing at a greater rate than what we can raise property tax at 2.5% a year. So it's kind of been a runaway freight train, the whole trash issue and recycling issue, that communities are finding it very hard to continue to provide that as part of the real estate tax.
so I've said this to Anthony already. It won't be a surprise to him. I would like to have a lot more discussion.
Sure.
Completely agree that we need to have some public forums, but to me, the most effective public forum for something of the nature of trash and trash fees is at a town meeting. So it would be my preliminary thought that if we are considering this in any way, shape, or form, that we don't need town meeting to put fees on anything, but I think this is a town meeting. This is one that we need to give the town meeting very clear options, and perhaps in the form of an override. If these are your choices, you have to pass an override, and if you don't, this is what's going to happen, and this is what your fee is going to be. I don't think that we should presume, and again, I need a lot more information to say this definitely, but philosophically, I don't think we should presume that we should add on fees for trash.
Let me shock you and say I totally agree.
You did shock me. Well, but because we don't
Only one
haven't
shock a
talked
night,
about
not
this.
two.
Yeah, right. No, not that it's not a huge problem.
No,
But
we
people
want the
have to
people
face
to, this is this is an emotional issue as well as a financial issue, as you can see, at least from the town of Hamilton. So I agree, and that we should have to characterize, okay, the budget can be X, it could be X minus such and such if we go one or two of these, we have to pick one of these options, a bag and a half, or whatever it is, going back to the trash thing, and say, okay, we can raise whatever the number was. I like the 1.5 one, a couple $100,000, and that should be meaningful, and we're gonna go through all this stuff, yeah, I think it should be a town meeting. If they say yes, great, we put it through. If they say no, well, we have other hard options at the town meeting.
All right, or at least they know what the other options would be. So again, I think we need more information, because we still
got to close that gap.
complete fees,
Yeah.
other things that are going to close the gap. We haven't talking about an operational override. We haven't even talked about the schools or what that's going to mean.
Yeah, and I've had some comments about people who actually viewed our Saturday presentation, and that now these are not big dollar things, but some of the things like the police have, I don't know, 14 shotguns or something, or whatever, 14 AK, and they need to have a professional clean it. I've had two people, I mean, that's the takeaway was what? Now I'm sure there's not a lot of money, but on the other hand, I think we need a better answer for why we need so many AK-47 rifles, whatever they are, assault rifles, and that why we need a professional clean. I don't know. I mean, I couldn't answer the question. But,
I could now, but I won't, because I have it secondhand. I just happen to know an expert in the field.
Well, what is it then?
Well, I think in terms of the numbers, that would be an explanation from the police. And I think that they said that not that they brought in a professional, but they had someone come and train one of them to be able to professionally clean them. And my expert says that that's absolutely appropriate, that for that kind of a rifle, you would want someone who would be highly trained and could just clean.
But it's one thing to have an expert train somebody in the police department to clean it. I got the impression that we're saying, out.
Well, I felt like I heard it both ways, and in the end, I thought they said someone from the outside came and trained one of someone on the force to be able to do this kind of a cleaning, which is...
So my public safety background is in both Brookline and Littleton. What they do is they have one of the officers gets the duty as armorer. And they're trained to clean the rifles. Every time they shoot, they have to be cleaned. So as I think that you heard that they shoot 4 times a year, so when they're discharged, they have to be fully cleaned, and it's usually a police officer that takes the time and just cleans that.
That's what they would do. That's not exactly what...
Yeah, I was...
Yeah, I'm not sure. You may be right, Jack. He may have said, yeah.
It's a clarification.
Yeah, that would be right. I'm sure it's not a lot of money, but there's not too many takeaways this person had other than that and 2 or 3 other things up there. So, okay, we're going to have to, we have a lot of work to do here, not only just these half a dozen slides, but on other things that we need to, I met with Anthony, Catherine, and I said that we need ordinarily, we're both former FinCom members, and historically, the town turns over its recommendations to the Finance Committee in early January, no later than mid-January. This is now December 10th. We have a lot of work to do on their budgets between now and pick a number of January 10th. So I'm suggesting we have a Saturday meeting. I don't think we can tack some of this stuff on to a regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting. I think it's an open-ended meeting that might take 2 or 3 hours, and that in early January to go over some of these weighty proposals that we heard Saturday from the towns, fire truck, a lot of money, on the person, the second operator for the water department, there's
Right.
a lot of personnel,
Yep.
mostly personnel additions as opposed to supplies. So, I mean, we need to get this done by mid-January to turn over our recommendations. So I'm thinking that, either a night devoted just to this, or a Saturday meeting. I gave a suggested date to the Saturday meeting and a weekday meeting too.
I think a separate standalone meeting for some of this, and including the FinCom, I think, could be part of the discussion, is a good idea, to
Yeah, there
tag
could be-
this on.
It's our job to turn over something to the FinCom.
Right, but
Yeah.
they could, I wouldn't mind their input on a few things, so if they attended our meeting and had some input, I don't have a problem with
It's a
that.
public meeting, anybody
But
can
I
attend.
think a separate meeting is a good idea. The question is, does it make sense to do that when we have the information we have now, or does it make more sense to do that after we've at least seen the first round of the school numbers, which is also the beginning part of January?
Well, even if the school numbers miraculous didn't go up by $1,
We still have these, yeah.
we still have a significant
Yes.
issues here.
Yes, it's true.
And that,
So we'll probably have a couple of standalone meetings, I
well,
think.
I don't know what we can do about the schools other than organize them. The school's going to give us their budget. It's not debatable. And that, we can attend meetings and when they have public meetings and give input. But when they come up with their number, they're going to come up with their number. It's not a debatable thing. And so that we're going to have to simply live with that. Other than, obviously, we had the OPEB issues last year and they're going to have
Right.
to, that might be a separate override depending on how much they come up with and when we put it on our warrant articles. But I think we still have to, we can't turn anything over in the schools to our finance committee. They're going to be meeting with our finance committees are meeting with the schools anyway. And that, as you well know.
Right, we just, as I said, we won't have even a preliminary budget until then, and you're right, we can't change it, but I hate to use the word strategy, because that sounds very, sort of conniving, but the strategy of how we close our gap with an operating override, a debt exclusion override, their capital, our capital, I think might change depending on what they come up with. But certainly, you're right,
The
there
structure of our
are,
overrides is not going to change. It may change, excuse me, depending on what we hear. But the fact that we heard a lot of additions to our operating budget from the
Yes.
department. So we have to
yes,
come up with our recommendations to the FinCom.
yep,
I call it mid-January-ish.
yep, I agree. I think in a standalone meeting is probably
We
a
have
good
to
idea.
schedule, my recommendation's a separate meeting.
Yeah,
Anyway.
so if you want to.
So looking at that, January 4th is the first Saturday in January, if that's
Works for me.
I could do that.
any particular time?
Yeah, definitely. 5 minutes of 9.
5 minutes.
5 of 9,
10
8:55.
o'clock. I was just-
Yeah.
Change.
Yeah, 5's better than, 9's better than 8:30.
Okay. And
Sleep in.
That would be it.
did you want this to be a joint meeting with FinCom, or just
Captain
simply?
suggested we invite first, anybody can come to this meeting.
Right, but it,
So, I don't want to have us and the FinCom here and have a, back and forth. The FinCom can opine on anything we talk about, and that, but their opining is going to happen in their own collective meetings with the department heads themselves. So they get a chance to meet individually with all these departments, as they do every single year, and they can come back with their own recommendations and deliberations. Meanwhile, I think that our obligation is to turn over something that's responsible to the Finance Committee, and that I don't mind their input, but I don't want to have a two committee debate here with the FinCom. It's our job to get something to them, and that then we're done. And that until the end of the process.
Right, that was where I
And
was.
then, the end of the process, we may not agree with what they come up with.
Right.
And we usually, historically, miraculously, have come to. We've never had my tenure here. Catherine's too. We haven't had a disagreement going into the town meeting as to what the numbers are for any of the budgets, and so that. We have had disagreements at the school committee and at the school department over how much we were willing to fund, including last year, for example.
So my only point to that is, if we are going to have a disagreement with the FinCom initially, we always work it out. But the sooner we know that we have a disagreement,
Yeah, but
the
they're
more
not going
time
to
we
know,
have.
I agree, but they're not going to know until they actually sit down with they're going to have their individual meetings like they always do with all the major departments, the highway, police, so on and so forth, and they're going to debate amongst themselves and come up with a conclusion. You know, they haven't even begun that process yet. And this process we had Saturday was sort of like, okay, come on, present, thank you very much, next, you know, let's have the bagels, next, you know. And by the way, those sandwiches are very good from the bagel shop. In that,
Little plug for the bagel shop.
Actually,
Little plug for the bagel shop
I
there.
went back there
Bagel
yesterday
shop.
with a couple of more wraps.
Did you really?
And he said they ran out of turkey Saturday too, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, because
They were
we-
very good, yeah.
Yeah, they were good.
So I think that this is our process, and then it's their process.
Yeah,
And,
I guess we differ a little on that. I guess at the very least, I think we should invite them so they get to hear the,
Yeah,
and I don't actually have a problem with them at some point, not a back and forth debate, but at some point after we've had our meeting to get a little bit of input on if they've had any conversation and what they're.
I have presented the revenue, this presentation, actually the longer one, to them, so they've had an opportunity to
Okay.
see that, and they've discussed it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to hear their input on it.
I think they were relatively quiet Saturday as well, you know, so we'll see.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
fine.
All right.
To schedule our meeting.
So we're done, right?
January 4th, 9 o'clock, that's, last
Yes.
thing is, any other matters?
I move that we adjourn.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
My favorite motion, it's 7:36.